A few months ago, StarQ released modular service blocks on PDX mods, making it possible to finally build fully custom and fully functional airports in city skylines too. And since then, even more mods have been released like Sully's Airports Essentials Pack and Yoko's airline livery modules for Ride Everywhere. This takes airport creation and customization to an entirely new level. In this video series, I'll walk you through how I built my international airport using these mods and more. Full disclaimer though, this was definitely a learn as I go project. My build process was all over the place at times. Definitely not my usual style, but honestly, I was just too excited to dive in. I had a blast building this, and I can't wait to share it with you. Let's get into it. And with the land appropriated for the airport, we're going to go ahead and start laying down the foundations for it. The first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and mark where I'm leaving this block. It blends in a bit and it was hard for me to see it a couple times. So just for my own sanity, we're going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Now, I'll be utilizing both runway sizes, and in addition, I'll create a third non-functional off-camera in the center. The inspiration for this build comes from Seattle-Tacoma International, so trying to mimic that runway layout was essential to me. So I wanted to get these runways set up to a point where these taxi routes were as close to lined up as possible. Luckily, there's not much to them. They link together just like any other net lane. You just have to be careful how they snap sometimes. So we'll just throw together a base little taxi route for now. I'm going to change this up quite a bit going forward, but for the sake of just getting started, this will work just fine. Alright, I'm pretty happy with this as a starting point. Like I said, I'll be tweaking a lot of things along the way, cleaning up awkward turns and making everything flow better so it all feels more cohesive with the rest of the build. For now though, I want to get the terminal foundation in place. The first thing is laying down some guide roads, which will help me lock in the shape and angles that I'm going for. Since SeaTac has that distinct boomerang layout, I'm going to line up some static ploppables along these roads to recreate that look. To create the main terminals, I'm going to be using the Medical University research facilities. I think these give the best look for airport terminals overall, so you'll see me leaning on these a lot throughout the rest of the build. Then to connect the two of them, I'm going to use the automated parking building as the atrium. I'll drop it into the ground with Move It until it sits at a height that feels just about right. Once that's in place, I'll go ahead and delete the guide roads and put a roof on top using the lecture hall from the Modern Architecture Creator Pack. Alright, so now it's time to build out the second and third concourses. For these I'm going to go with the hospital special ward static ploppable as the base. The reason I really like this building is because it kind of mimics the stretched out shape you'd expect from a real airport concourse. Plus the glass and roof details give it that modern terminal vibe, which fits perfectly into the overall look that I'm going for. So I'll snap them into place coming off the main terminal, and then I'll use Move It to fine tune the angles so they match the layout. SeaTac's concourses extend out a bit like arms, so lining these up in that style helps sell the realism a bit. Once they're positioned, you can already see how the flow of the airport is coming together. It's starting to feel more like a busy hub with multiple passenger areas branching out from the center. I'm really happy with how this is coming out. With the terminal layout wrapped up, I'm moving on to the airline parking. I set up about 6 routes and tied them into the outer terminal arms, nice and simple. The routes themselves are easy enough to drop in, and I'll clean them up later once the taxiways start to take shape. For the airlines, I'm using the Yoko's Ride Everywhere module so I can swap out the branding and plane types. It adds a ton of variety and just makes the whole airport feel more alive. After that, I made sure the parking zones were lined up properly and dropped in the jetways. For those, I'm using Chengxi's jetway assets. Seriously, they're such a great set. You can grab them over on Sully's Discord if you want to try them out. Now I'm dropping in the first satellite terminal. At SeaTac, this one's mainly used as the international hub, but in my build, I'm turning it into the primary hub for Delta Airlines. I'll be putting together a custom skywalk later to match SeaTac's design as best I can, but for now, I'm just laying down the temporary version to get the placement right. I also set up some plane props and jetways early on just to get a feel for how everything else lines up. Having those in place really helped me lock in the overall vision as the build came together. So, as you can see here, we've got some really cool airline props all set up. This is all part of Nyoko's Ride Everywhere module, and I'm going to show you how to get this going. It's actually pretty simple once you get the hang of it, but full disclosure, at the time of recording, I didn't even know how to get the copy and paste part working correctly. I was still learning this, but it becomes really easy muscle memory once you get it going. So, when you download the mod, Nyoko includes painted props of each airline, ready to go. You can search for it and find it, and place it anywhere in your city, and just like that, you have your airline of choice. However, sometimes though, the prop might appear invisible or untextured like here in my case. Here's how I fix it. Following his steps, you open Ride Everywhere with Control-Shift-W, select the invisible or untextured prop, then import route from XML at root. You'll navigate to templates, mods, and select the airline you want to use, and that should do it. With this one, I used the basic airline prop from within the game to start it off, so I went ahead and painted everything white. If you don't do that, it's just going to look really awkward once you get done. Do you see how clean this looks? Nyoko did such a good job. I'm going to buy him a coffee for this. He did an incredible job on these modules. So Nyoko, thank you for this. We all appreciate it. And you don't necessarily have to add a new node first like I did. I only did that because this was my first time using Ride Everywhere, so I was still trying to figure out the kinks. I started this build the same day Nyoko began dropping the airline livery mods. Using Find It, I'm going to grab some of the props that came with the mod. As you'll see, they show up invisible for me at first, so we'll reapply the textures the same way we did before. Just make sure you're using the correct ones, since there are specific textures for different plane bodies, like 787s or A330s. I'll demonstrate that here. So now I'm going to start printing some of these on their props and line them up with their jetways. I'll let the time lapse roll for this part and we'll catch up in a little bit. Alright, so now we're on to the part of the build that nearly broke me, the parking lot. I wanted to get this monster out of the way early so I can focus on the fun details later. Just like the main terminal, SeaTac's parking garage has that signature boomerang shape. So first things first, I'm laying down the terminal loop roads, and then from there I'll start piecing the parking structure together. Originally, I thought I'd just follow Sully's tutorial on stacked lots. Easy win, right? Yeah, not so much. The awkward shape here made it a nightmare to copy, and since there's no copy and paste tool in the game right now, I basically had to brute force the whole thing. This one lot alone took me almost an entire weekend. I swear I aged 5 years building it. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Could it be better? Probably. Will I torture myself revisiting this one day on stream? Most likely. And this time around, I'm pretty sure I'll have something much stronger than water in the glass next to me. For the ground floor of this monster, I'm building the transit hub directly into it. It's going to tie everything together nicely, and honestly, I won't really have to do much detail or anything. It's going to hide all the clutteriness that a transit hub brings. And the second and third levels are identical, so I'll just show you the second floor going up here. Then I'll fast forward through the rest so you don't have to sit through another weekend of parking garage pain. So enjoy the time lapse, and once that's wrapped up, we'll reconnect for the taxiways, one final terminal, and then we'll wrap this video up. So, here we go with the line work for the taxiways. And let me tell you, this part was another sanity check. Luckily, if you've got show markers turned on, it makes it pretty easy to follow the taxiways and get the center lines down. But of course, sometimes the net lanes just do their own thing and refuse to line up straight. It can really be a pain in the ass, and honestly, this is the part of the build where I racked up the most mulligans. I'd get a line down, look at it, hate it, and delete it, and try again, over and over. But after enough trial and error, I managed to piece together something cohesive and at least somewhat realistic. It's one of those moments where you finally sit back and think to yourself, alright, that was worth the pain. While I was at it, I also took the time to draw out some roadways, that way I can set some defining lines for the edge of the airport. It's way too easy to keep expanding out past what you originally planned, and with the limited map space here, I had to give myself a hard cutoff, otherwise I'd probably still be out here laying taxiways into the void. And just like that, we've got something that actually starts to look like a sort of realistic, functional airport. And honestly, I'm really happy with how this has turned out so far, and I'm excited to keep building it. So to close this video out, I'm going to tackle the second satellite terminal. In the real world, this is the exclusive hub for Alaska Airlines at SeaTac, so we're going to follow that same idea here too. I'll use the Medical University building as the main concourse and then fill the rest with some of the buildings we've already used. A few airline props, parking stands, and jetways later, and you can really start to see this place coming to life. And once that's done, we'll clean up the surfaces, connect everything up to the taxiways, and call it a wrap for now. And there we have it, the start of a Seattle-Tacoma inspired, fully custom and fully functional airport. This was truly such a blast to build, and I hope you guys are enjoying it if you're doing your own as well. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Sully and Pekana. Their videos on building airports really inspired me and taught me so much. If you haven't checked them out yet, I'll drop links down below. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. I really hope to see you all for the next part of the series as we continue to polish this airport off. I promise it's going to be a good one. For now, take care. Cheers.